How was that breakfast? That was inspired by our guest chef, Easta Belfridge, and prepared by our talented CIA culinary team. And that's just one of those extra things we like to do here at the CIA, is really for throughout the whole conference for you to get to taste guest chefs' dishes, to be able to have access to them in multiple ways. So that is led by our executive chef, Toni Sakaguchi, and her culinary team. And as our chefs know, they are busy working behind the scenes, getting all of our food prepped. They create the food for volunteers, for staff, and for all of you. So if you don't mind, if we can give our culinary staff a round of applause. So we have a high energy day ahead. We'll have the first breakouts. We'll have 2 rounds of breakout sessions. We'll delve into ingredients like coconuts, banana leaves, tofu, which has been described as the OG protein. We'll learn how to build complex flavor with techniques such as smoking, pickling, and fermentation, and expand our culinary repertoire with demos on cuisines from India, Iran, North Africa, Spain, Texas, Vietnam, and more. We'll kick it off this morning with a panel discussion on how to take global flavors to mainstream menus. And I am absolutely pleased to introduce Nancy Kruse, who will moderate this panel discussion. Nancy is the president of the Kruse Company, which is dedicated to assessing trends and directions in food, menu, and restaurant concepts. And she has tackled these topics in the pages of leading industry publications like Restaurant Business and Nation's Restaurant News. She is a recognized authority and widely quoted spokesperson on food and menu trends, and one of the best-known menu analysts in the business. She has also completed coursework at the CIA, so we have lots of opportunities at all levels of professions for you to do that. And she's also served as a guest lecturer. In addition, Nancy has been named one of LinkedIn's top 100 influencers in the US, and she's also been to quite a few Worlds of Flavors, so she brings that perspective as both a host of a session and an attendee. And so please help me to welcome Nancy Kruse, and don't forget to ask questions in Slido.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and good morning to all of you. I'm delighted to be here with you. Our session, from the point of view of objectives, is to talk about how global foods and flavors make their way into the American mainstream. And to discuss that topic, I have with me 3 of the very best culinary game changers in the business. So that's awfully exciting. The way that we've put this together, 2 things. First, we've got some prepared questions, and I will walk through them with the panel. But please, please, please send your questions in to us. We're going to try to leave time at the end to take your questions as well, because this is a great panel of experts. Now, to get us going this morning, I'd like to bring up my slides. Whoops, but not that one, this one. All that I want to do very quickly is kind of set the stage for our conversation. When the question is, what does the American consumer really want anyway? One of the avenues to explore, to look for the answer to that question, comes from the National Restaurant Association, right? Every year they do their annual What's Hot survey, and that's a good starting point for us this morning. Left-hand side first, please. This is from the What's Hot forecast 2020 BC, before COVID. Take a look, please, at that list and what it suggests as I move you away from 2020. Now, the NRA was dark in terms of forecasts in 21, 2022. right-hand side of the slide, we're now looking at the What's Hot Forecast 2023 PC post-COVID. What has happened here? Is this the same dining populace? Is this the same culinary culture? Yes. Yes, what we're seeing here is the result of collective trauma, really. And two thoughts on this, the right-hand side of this slide. The first is, look at the way the consumer now has come to you. I know you suffered, and you've been suffering for the last 4 years. Experience, local community, they want hospitality. They've come to where you shine. This is a tremendous opportunity. Charcuterie boards, why not? It's sharing, it's hands-on, especially if it has a chicken sandwich on it. Just very quickly, before I bring us forward in time, you know, the culinary anthropologists and sociologists are writing books about them. The impact of COVID on the American psyche, they don't need books. They need this slide. It seems to me it tells the whole story. Now, I'd like to bring you from 2023 to 2024, the top 5 trends. You heard it yesterday, didn't you, on this very stage from Keanu Mujo. Comfort, familiarity, accessibility, but now with a global accent. And that's why we're here, right? We are, all of us now, operating in a global kitchen. And with that as my sort of segue, I'd like to move us into our panel. And I'll start, if I could, with Chef Chintan Pandya. Chef, welcome. Would you introduce yourself to the audience, please, and tell them a little bit about your organization?
Thank you. So, guys.
It's working, yes?
Something is working.
Yeah. Thank
So, guys,
goodness.
my name is Chintan Pandya, and I'm a part of this company called Unapologetic Foods. We are based out of New York. We run close to 7 outlets right now. Everything in our portfolio is Indian, except one restaurant, which is a Filipino restaurant. And the entire philosophy of the company is to make sure that we do the food that we are not apologetic about. You know, for the longest time, what has happened is every time somebody has tried to do an ethnic food outside of the country that they are from, we have always tried to cope up with the idea that we are not good enough for everybody. And we try to, in a better word to say is like, somebody can beep it out, but basically we try to bastardize the food. And something as a company we don't believe is that we keep the flavor as authentic as possible. We try to do as simple and flavorful food.
Right.
That's it.
And you're operating in multiple levels. In other words, you have fine dining, you have fast casual, and there is something important, Chef, that you left out. Chef Chintan has won both the James Beard Award and he is Michelin recognized. Yes. Yes, so please. So, all right, so you have told us you're unapologetic, but you're also operating in New York City. What kinds of adjustments have you had to make realistically, Chef, and unapologetically to appeal to an American diner who may not be familiar with your cuisine?
I think the entire idea, perception, or whatever you call it, is built in our mind. Okay. We feel people don't want that real food. We feel they are not looking for it. But with now, world being such a small place, social media being there, we had people who would come to us and say that, you know, and multiple ethnic food can talk about it, saying that, oh, this is not the same food what I ate in India, or this is not the same food that I ate in Thailand, or in Vietnam, or in China. It's very different. And I think that's the problem that we addressed. We says, you know what, we need to cook the real food.
Right.
And I think we think the diner doesn't know about the food. I think somebody who pays money knows everything about what he wants to buy.
Is it what you're selling, though, I guess is my question, right?
Yes, we are selling, like one of our restaurants actually sells goat brains.
Goat brains, okay.
Now to go more deeper, one of our restaurants actually sells goat testicles.
Okay, that's probably as deep as we're going to go here this morning, Chef. But,
And again, you know, the concept of nose to tail came to this
Yes.
country or the Western world maybe 20 years back or something. But
Yes.
if you go to Asia, the concept of nose to tail was a survival method for us.
Of course.
So it was never a trend. It was never a fad for us. It was a
No.
way that we grew up eating everything.
Yeah.
We wanted all the resources to be used in a right way and be very optimistic about it.
Good for you. Given that, and you know, testicles and brains aside, if we could this morning, give us an example of your most popular dish. What has the American diner, whether it's in your fine dining, let's talk there first. What is it that seems to strike the strongest chord with the diners in New York City?
I think what happens with us is that we are very ingredient focused.
Yes.
And I know it sounds like a very cliche term that, you know, a restaurant being ingredient focused. Every restaurant is ingredient focused. There's nothing wrong in it.
Right.
What happens in our case, unfortunately or fortunately, is that we use very specific regional ingredients which are very specific to us, not available in the market very openly. So we have to go to great length to make sure that we source it. We have a team of 3 people which works at least, if you have to count in a week, apart from in the operation, they have to work 24 to 26 to 30 hours a week just to make sure that the logistics and the ingredients come from a right place. And, you know, like, just to give you an example, a very small thing, like, let's say spices. You know, normally what happens is you are like, oh, you just order the spices from a store. We don't do that. We actually go to the market and we see the spices, and if we like a certain, let's say a green cardamom, we like a green cardamom, we'll ask him, how much batch do you have? He'll say 50 pounds. We'll pick up 50 pounds from him. But next time, you might not have a better good
Right.
batch, so I'll go to somebody else and see if they have a better batch. So we don't have one specific vendor. We work with multiple vendors to get the best product possible to get our food out.
Okay, then let me ask you this question on behalf of the entire audience, because most of the people in our audience aren't in a position to do what you just described, right? Go to the market. You are operating in both the fine dining, but you're also in fast casual. Thinking about all of your menus, is there an ingredient, an item that you think is absolutely ripe for crossover that you would recommend to any of our audience here as something that they can hook onto and engage their audiences that comes right out of the Indian pantry?
There is one ingredient. It's a byproduct of milk. It's a cheese, and it's called paneer.
It is everywhere. Thank you, yes.
And not to be arrogant or boastful about it, and this is an open challenge to everybody. We have an open challenge to everyone who dines in our restaurant.
Yes.
And we have a restaurant called Dhamaka, that if you dine at Dhamaka and you eat paneer, and if you can get a better quality of paneer in entire America, please get that paneer, get the receipt from the night you dined with us. We'll actually give you cash.
Okay.
No, it's honest. And people think that it's arrogant, and I say it's not arrogance. We actually go great lengths to just buy that specific milk, and the milk is a high-fat milk, limited quantity, which can only survive one of our restaurants. It doesn't even survive other 6. So
Okay.
I said, and people ask us, why do you do that? And I just say that it's what you believe in. That's the part.
And I like the answer, paneer, especially because it's turning up. Hyatt Hotels has it in a number of its outlets. I'm seeing it on college campuses, of course, and so on. So thank you for that.
And sorry, just to
Yeah.
add on the paneer, I said it. Why? Because first and foremost, it's a cheese.
Yep.
The second thing is, it's very good when grilled or sauteed. And I think a lot of people who have not used it might not understand, that's why.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And we may come back. Chef, we'll take questions at the end. I am delighted to move to Mr. Joseph Kim. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Kim, would you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about BBDOTQ chicken?
네, 안녕하십니까. 저는 BBQ 치킨 미국 법인 조셉 킴 법인장입니다.
Hello everyone, my name is Joseph Kim. I'm the CEO of the BBQ Chicken USA.
지금 이제 BBQ 치킨의 약자는 바베큐가 아니고 베스트 오브 더 베스트 퀄리티라는 약자입니다.
The abbreviation of BBQ is not barbecue, it stands for best of the best quality.
Right.
처음에 미국에 왔을 때는 콩글리시를 써가지고 베스트 빌리버블 퀄리티라는 표현도 써봤지만 다시 베스트 오브 더 베스트 퀄리티로 정정을 하게 되었습니다.
And when we first entered the U.S. market, we used the Konglish where it's not really a proper English where we just say best believable quality, but we have adjusted our company abbreviation to best of the best
Okay.
quality.
Can you tell the audience, please, where are you headquartered? In what countries do you operate? How many stores do you operate?
지금 현재 그 본사는 그 뉴저지 포트리에 위치하고 있습니다.
The U.S. headquarters currently reside at Fort Lee, New Jersey.
Right?
그리고 미국에는 지금 현재 200개 이상의 매장이 운영하고 있고 현재 150개 정도가 지금 공사를 진행하고 있습니다.
We're currently operating more than 200 active operating units in the United States, and we currently in the process of construction 150 location at the moment.
Wow, so you'll have 350 stores. Worldwide, how many stores?
지금 한 3,500개 이상의 매장들이 운영되고 있습니다.
We currently operate more than 3,500 locations globally.
3,500, yeah, okay, thank you for that. All right, I had mentioned to Andrew Lee, who's with us today, and Mr. Kim, as we were putting this together, you are operating in the single hottest product category on the menu. Ladies and gentlemen, quick show of hands. How many of you are chefs, operators of some sort? Could you put your hands up, please? Okay, so that's most of you. How many of you are offering some sort of a fried chicken product? Hello, that's about it. So I'm curious, Mr. Lee, given how competitive this category is, what is it that sets your product apart? How do you differentiate? Is it flavor? Is it technique? Tell us a little bit about your fried chicken product, please.
예, 이제 미국식 치킨은 지금 저희 한국식 치킨은 어떤 미국식 치킨에 한국의 맛과 한국인의 손맛을 더해서 새롭게 한국 브랜드로 재탄생시켰습니다.
So the definition, the Korean fried chicken we currently serve is rooted out of the American fried chicken that is being moderated and cultivated by the hands of the Koreans with the flavor of the Korean flavor.
셰프님들이 너무 많으셔서 뭐 기본적인 얘기는 뭐 프레시 치킨을 한다거나 뭐 숙성을 한다거나 이러한 부분들은 가장 기본일 겁니다.
Since there are a lot of chef operators currently serving fried chicken, you all know that the basic fundamental is using a fresh chicken and doing a right brining process.
이제 한국인의 이제 맛이라고 하면 이제 장류를 둘 수 있을 것 같습니다. 그래서 저희가 발효식품인 고추장 그리고 간장 그리고 그 이러한 김치 이러한 그 발효식품을 활용한 저희가 소스를 그 기존에 있는 미국식 소스에 그러한 독창적인 어떤 장류의 맛들을 곁들였습니다.
So to give elaborate the Korean flavor, I can tell that the fermentation, as you already know, gochujang, soy sauce, or kimchi could be a very good example. And since Korean fried chicken use the combination of those Korean components along with the American components in the sauce, I can assure that that is the differentiator.
그래서 또 현지인들의 익숙한 그 토마토 베이스인 케찹까지 곁들여서 한국인의 독특한 맛과 미국인의 친숙한 맛들을 한번 같이 조합을 해서 복합적인 맛들을 선보이게 되었습니다.
And we are currently providing a complex flavor by adding up a very familiar ingredient such as ketchup into those Korean components that I just mentioned into our sauces.
Could we talk about that for a moment, please? I'm curious, have you had to make changes to your flavors, to your techniques, as you've moved through America? How have Americans responded to?
처음에 미국 시장에 진출했을 때 미국 현지인들이 매운맛들이 조금 센시티브하다 보니까 저희 한국의 맛들은 일반적으로 매운맛이 기본적으로 조금씩 배어 있습니다.
So when we first entered the United States, we did alter the flavor. The most Korean cuisines are very spice-driven and
Yes,
very
I was gonna ask,
spicy.
yeah.
So when we first entered the United States, we did try to moderate the flavor a little bit.
그래서 파우더의 매운기를 뺐고요. 현지인들이 좋아하는 짱기를 올려서 저희들이 짱기를 올리고 매운맛을 죽여서 현지화를 맛들을 시켜봤습니다.
So we actually try initially to localize our flavor by eliminating the spiciness from our powder and by increasing the saltiness into our brining process.
그렇게 하다 보니까는 한국의 고유 맛에 대한 아이덴티티가 사라짐으로써 오히려 매출이 줄어들게 되었습니다.
So when we actually implemented that, the problem was we actually saw a decrease in the revenue because we lost our Korean identity in our menu.
그래서 다시 한국인의 고유의 맛을 살리는 한국의 맛을 그대로 구현하는 걸로 다시 재조정을 하게 되어 성공하게 되었습니다.
So we adjusted the strategy, and I believe this is the background of our success, where we realigned to go back to our root and focus on the providing the authentic Korean flavor to the American audience.
That's a great story. One quick last question, and then we'll go to Chef Haas. What's the single most popular item on your menu? What do you sell the most of?
지금 현재 시크릿 소스라는 양념 치킨이 잘 팔리고 있습니다.
The most popular menu is secret sauce, which is we call yangnyeom chicken, a very typical Korean fried chicken.
그
Yes.
양념 치킨은 고추장에 플러스 토마토 베이스인 케찹이 같이 어울려져 있는 소스입니다.
So yangnyeom chicken is the gochujang mixed with the ketchup, and it's a very staple Korean fried chicken sauce.
It's a very good, it's a very accessible sauce. It's very, very good. Thank you, Mr. Kim. And again, questions for Mr. Kim, we'll take questions. But certainly now we have the opportunity to welcome Chef Haas Zaré. Would you introduce yourself, please, Chef?
My name is Haas Zaré. I'm a Bay Area-based chef, and I've been in the United States for 38 years. And I have my restaurants, open restaurants, but my not end of the career, but towards the twist of I am working right now as executive chef with the Bon Appetit management company at Google.
Yep.
So one of the amazing things happened in my career, different angle, and very proud to be with the company. I thought maybe I know a lot, but when you move, you get your comfortable zone and you learn some other stuff that you didn't know that. So I'm looking forward to share more a little later with the questions.
Okay, all right, so but let me back you up a little bit. You're with Bon Appetit Management. I suspect a lot of you in the audience are familiar with that, a best-in-class operation. Now you're on the Google campus. How big is your feeding program? How many meals a day, a week? Are you going 24/7, Chef?
I usually talk from the heart, but there's a little note I have for myself. I'd like to read that one, so I do a justice for the Bon Appetit. So it's very short. Bon Appetit Management Company is a food service provider focused on the sustainable, chef-driven dining in universities, corporation, and cultural institutions. Known for its farm-to-fork philosophy, it emphasizes locally sourced ingredients, willingness, and environmental responsibility. Looking forward, the company aims to expand its commitment to climate-friendly menus, plant-based options, and waste reduction, aligning with the broader trends in sustainability and food innovation. So, to answer the question, I never thought myself I can work with a corporation because I was one of those Bay Area chef-driven, hotshot working restaurant, doing whatever we want. But when I started working with Bon Appetit as a consultant with Jim Dutch, which is I owe him a big gratitude. He took me more than 10 states of the United States and trained the American chefs with the Bon Appetit, 30 each time, different states for the Persian cuisine. That was opened my mind. And last one was Google, which is there were no Persian food at Google at the time. Now we have more than 150 recipes of Persian cuisine there. To answer the question, we do roughly over 150,000 meals a day.
Excuse me, 150,000 meals a day.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and again, numbers can be a little more and less, but then there are about 70-something cafes, and these are all guided by the amazing chefs, talented chefs there, all quality, sustainability, and the organic and locally chosen ingredients, which is sometimes hard, but it's.
Okay, and Chef, do you have responsibility as well for catering? Do you do retail, all of that kind of stuff on your campus as well?
We have our own catering.
Yeah,
Yes,
of course.
amazing. They do amazing job. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make an assumption here that your customer base is pretty diverse. So what are you doing for them in terms of global foods and flavors? What's working for you? Where's the demand, chef?
So this is like, have you seen the movies? They start ending and then suddenly go dreaming, goes backward. I am gonna go that way. I talk about where I am right now. What get me here? My dream was to bring the Iranian cuisine to the mainstream of America. I did my part with the restaurants I opened, but it wasn't enough for me to expand it. So when the Bon Appetit came to picture and Google, you're talking about the biggest company and the variety of food, having a mainstream of the Iranian cuisine in that company and seeing the response, again, I compromise, I didn't sacrifice. That's another subject.
Okay.
When you come from the countries that you have, like we were talking to chefs, local ingredients you cannot find here.
Yes.
And you can, in my case, was harder because you talk about Iran, there's no relationship, and also it wasn't easy at the time
Right.
to bring the food. So you have to be patient, times right, social media and everything to bring into the picture. But supply and demand. So my trick was to get this point, involve the chef, give them a taste of the ingredients, and make a similar ingredient from other ingredients, substitute, and have them to like those ingredients and demand from the companies. So
Okay.
that was the one help to bring a lot of ingredients in to source it out to the companies, to restaurants.
Okay, so give us some examples, something that perhaps someone in the audience could execute in their own kitchen, a Persian dish or a Persian, something that's been successful for you, an ingredient that has worked well.
I mean, look at the mainstream right now, pomegranate molasses, grape
Okay,
molasses,
right.
date molasses, sumac, and I can name all
Okay,
the spices.
good.
These are what's very, at the beginning, very unique to find. But right now, you cut all the big companies, everywhere you can find it. And these
Great.
are not directly coming from Iran, but other countries like Turkey, Greece, they providing the relation, and it's coming here.
Mediterranean, yeah.
But again, what chefs say, the quality of ingredients, what grows in the nature, you cannot never replace another country.
Yes.
You can get closer for that, but you cannot have that unless you bring them. But unfortunately, there's no relation to bring ingredients directly from Iran. So as a chef, you have to be creative, and we have to manipulate the ingredients, put it together, come as close as possible.
Okay. On that basis, what has been the basis being the demand for authenticity and ingredients and so on? You've been doing this for a while. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, you know how people say being a chef isn't brain surgery? Well, as it turns out, Chef Haas, in fact, was a brain surgeon at the inception of his career. Okay, but he's surgery's loss, is our gain, right? Okay, so chef, you've been doing this for a while. What's been the biggest change that you've seen in your American diners? How have their tastes changed?
Let's look to America. America, land of immigrant. Actually,
Yes.
is not hard to mainstream to go because you have a lot of palates here to willing to try. Like if you go, for example, Italy, pretty much dominated with their own food, and there is not much of opportunity like United States and willingness market for you. So
Yep.
the challenges come from how you introduce to the main system, how you can. That's the reason I went to a med school to the cooking. It was my personality that I always promised myself to bring something for my country positive in the world. As being a surgeon, I could have helped people, but it wouldn't be impact. But as a food, what's the food for me is bring the people together. We are social human beings, we eat together. When we eat together, like when I was in the Bon Appetit traveling, when active we did 30 chefs, 30 items, food, eating together. What I told them, look around, look at the dining room chefs. I said, look at yourself. We have white, black, middle strand, female, male, gay, straight, politics differently. But all day we work together, we laugh together, we help each other, we eat together. What kind of career can get you that level? Like food. Food is the connection for humanity.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why I'm proud of what I do. I thought about after the flight job I sold to retired, but Bon Appetit picture came to me, and brought the different level, I noticed, oh, my business, my job actually started. I cannot quit.
Good for you. Well, we don't want you to. All right, so I'm going to remind you, we're going to take your questions. I'm going to have one quick question that I'd like to throw to the entire panel, any of you, on this. What has been your biggest learning experience as you've tried to introduce your foods to an American diner? Is there something that you can share in terms of perhaps a mistake that's been made or something that you would do differently? Chef Chintan?
I think, as I said before also, that I think people actually want the real food. And it could be any kind of ethnic food. They actually want a real version and not a very diluted version of that food.
Yes.
So that has been the biggest learning for us being in New York City.
Okay, great. A learning in terms of?
죄송합니다.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No.
어쨌든 현지인들은 음식이라는 게 입으로 들어가는 거기 때문에 상당히 보수적입니다. 현지인들은. 그래서 그 보수적인 부분에 있어서 조금 더 접근을 쉽게 하기 위해서 현지인들이 잘 알고 있는 친숙한 아이템이라는 치킨이라는 소재류를 사용했고요.
So for us, we use the very familiar item called fried chicken to the American consumer, as food is something you put into your mouth. So consumers tend to act very conservative
Yes.
about it. But
Yes.
our medium was a very familiar item, fried chicken.
Okay.
거기에 저희의 한국인의 맛들을 독특한 장류나 독특한 뭐 다양한 어떠한 독창적인 어떤 플레이버를 입혀서 친숙한 아이템에 조금 유니크하고 독창적인 복합적인 말들을 자연스럽게 접할 수 있도록 저희가 했습니다. 그 중에 K-푸드, K-컬처, 한류를 복합적으로 K-드라마와 함께 젊은 층을 포커스로 해서 먼저 진입 장벽을 한번 낮춰서 차근차근 올라가게 되었습니다.
So we try to lower the entry barrier by introducing our Korean fried chicken along with the Korean culture to a younger demographic, as we are providing a menu item that is very similar to the American palate, but with the distinctive of a Korean flavor and Korean sauces.
Thank you for that. Okay, we do have a question, Chef Haas, though I do want you, if you wouldn't mind, to address that issue, something that you've learned, perhaps a mistake that was made in terms of trying to cater to the American palate.
Yeah. I will go quick. For me, mistakes are bridges to the success, and those mistakes can become the courage and determination. I wish that I could have done before the Persian cuisine, because I was more Italian cuisine, Mediterranean, but I don't want to say I'm glad. What happened to me in 2007, the whole thing changed my life. I lost my parents. They got murdered in Iran. So that makes me to open the Persian cuisine to, I say more. So I get emotional about that. But
Okay.
that tragedy made me to be most successful in the United States as an immigrant to this day. And I don't want to say I'm glad that happened, but I'm glad it happened
Yes.
to make me to have a courage of what I do right now. Anyway.
That's a powerful lesson. Thank you for sharing that.
So thank you, Nancy. We have just one question for Chef Chintan. And they ask, with the American palate growing more sophisticated, do you find diners willing to try the more traditional and regional preparations, as you were talking about the brains? And so just do you find that you're getting more people who maybe are not as familiar with the complexity of Indian cuisine coming in and being open to those kinds of, which,
You know, and as I said before also, that one of the biggest learning for us as an organization, as people, as humans, is that we always had this idea that people are not ready for it. People always wanted it. And not only for Indian food, I don't know much about other cities. I travel to other cities just to understand Indian food. I don't look at other cuisine, but for New York, it's because it's our market. We look at every cuisine possible, and especially every ethnic food, including which is Thai, Korean food, Chinese food. You get so many different varieties of regional cooking. So there'll be a restaurant, a Thai restaurant, only serving you Southern Thai food. There's a restaurant serving you northern Thai food. So consumers are totally ready for it. It's us as operators, us as chefs, with our own insecurities, feel that people are not ready for it. So, I think consumer is always ready for it, and they want that real flavor. People travel now. People travel across a lot. Like, I know people who travel to dine at a specific restaurant to Europe or to Asia. So people have that, financial power to do it. But they also want the avenues where they can spend it. So I think people are ready for it.
What a wonderful place to stop.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
people are ready
Yes.
for it. This is a great message for all of you, too. Well, I would love to thank Nancy Kruse, who's brought so much energy to this morning conversation,
Thank you.
and to all of our panelists, and
Yes.
to Andrew for the interpretation.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Charcuterie boards are a visually stunning and versatile shared appetizer that have recently grown in popularity and have evolved far beyond meat and cheese boards. I'm going to show you how to put together a beautiful vegetarian charcuterie board with pastrami-cured portobello mushrooms, cured and smoked peppered beets, smoked celeriac and wild mushroom terrine, pickled vegetables, tomato chutney, and more. You don't need to make an entirely vegan board like I did here, but adding just some of these plant-based elements to a traditional charcuterie board makes it much more plant-forward and unique for your guests. We're going to begin by making this really versatile brine, which can be used to bring out the flavor in all sorts of vegetables. In a sauce pot, add water, kosher salt, Knorr professional liquid concentrated vegetable base for a kick of umami, agave syrup for some sweetness, peppercorns, a bay leaf, and some crushed garlic. Bring this mixture to a boil, then allow it to cool completely. Once the brine is cooled, we'll use it to make these pastrami-cured portobello mushrooms. In a mixing bowl, combine the brine with some tamari. Add cleaned and trimmed portobello mushroom caps and brine for 24 hours. After they've marinated, I've gone ahead and drained and rinsed my portobello caps. Here, I have a mixture of ground coriander and pepper. Coat the mushroom caps with that mixture. Next, smoke the mushroom caps at 180 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. I'm using an outdoor smoker, but you can also use a hotel pan smoker. Allow the smoked mushroom caps to cool enough to handle, and slice the caps on a bias. Set these aside. Next up, we'll use our same marinade to make these cured and smoked peppered beets. I've cooked these beets sous vide at 185 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 to 3 hours. Then allowed them to chill. Place the beets in the brine to marinate overnight. Drain and rinse the beets. Next, roll the beets in ground black pepper to coat them. Slice the beets 1/8 inch thick and lay them out on a wire rack. Smoke the sliced beets at 180 degrees Fahrenheit for 1.5 hours. Set these aside and allow them to cool. Another item I'm adding to my charcuterie board is this smoked celeriac and wild mushroom terrine. Let me show you the different components of the terrine and how to put it together. First, I have Swiss chard that I've blanched and laid out on plastic wrap. Go over this with a rolling pin to make sure it's very flat and compressed. Line a terrine mold with the plastic wrap chard. Then remove the top layer of plastic. Mix together the smoked celeriac potato puree and sautéed mushrooms and spinach. Right before putting the terrine together, mix in some prepared agar-agar. That's going to be the binding agent for my terrine. Go ahead and layer in the celeriac puree mixture. Level off the top and fold any excess greens over the top. press down gently to remove any bubbles. Refrigerate the terrine for at least 1 hour. Once chilled, gently remove the terrine from the mold and cut it into 1/4 inch thick slices. Remove the plastic wrap after slicing. Now that we have our different components ready, let's put our board together. First, I'll fan out the slices of pastrami-cured portobello mushrooms. I'll set out the smoked celeriac and wild mushroom terrine slices. Next, I have some condiments that pair really well with the flavors on this board. First, here I have some Hellmann's vegan mayonnaise blended with hot honey. I have some My Old Style mustard. I have some vegan cheese made out of cashew butter. And lastly, I have some sweet and tangy house-made roasted heirloom tomato chutney. Next, I'll place down the cured and smoked peppered beets. I have some pickled carrots and garlic cloves here. And finally, I'll add some toasted bread. The board looks great. This charcuterie board will give your customers a fun and engaging dining experience and allow you as a chef to use your creativity.
So my name is King Cook Daily and we're in Shoreditch, East London, and this is my little restaurant. So I started Cook Daily in 2015 and we are at my new location, which has been here for almost a year now. And it's a small little takeaway. We're around 10 seats and we just do good vegan grub. So the menu of Cook Daily is based on flavors from around the world, but with a heavy influence from Southeast Asia, especially Laos and Thailand. When I was a young kid, just going to Thailand and seeing all the street food, I was just so inspired by it, you know. So I knew that moving forward in my career as a chef, I wanted to kind of like bring the element with like street food, plus all the fine dining and all the classical mixture that I've been learning, and just put all in one and present it into a bowl. Yeah, I grew up with cooks. My father was a cook. He was a head chef of a famous hotel back in the 70s. He would bring home cuts of meat all the time. So, you know, as a young child, I was exposed to different cuts of meat and just the quality of good hotel food. So I always had that advanced palate as a young child. And I didn't do too well at school. So my mum said to me, you know, you're good at cooking. Your dad's a cook. He's taught you a few things. Why don't you consider going to catering college? So back in 1999, what's that, 25 years ago, I enrolled in a catering college. Spent 2 years there. And then from there, went straight to work. Started off in market stalls, pub kitchens. And then when I say pub kitchens, you have to understand, like, back in the day, let's say 25 years ago, a lot of Lao people in London were running the kitchen pubs, selling Thai food, you know. A lot of people didn't know about Lao food back then. So it was like the Lao people that were doing pub kitchens and, you know, selling Thai food. And a lot of them were my family members, my uncles, my dad's brothers, you know, and my father, obviously. So I grew up around pubs as a young child. Straight after school, my dad would take me all the way to West London to Putney Bridge, where he had their own little pub kitchen. I would do my homework there. I remember these days. And then slowly my dad would say, "Yo, King," well, maybe not yo, but like, "King, come and dish up some spring rolls." So I remember I used to do the sweet chili, pour the sweet chili, add a little garnish and put the spring rolls on the plate. That was my little job. And then after that, they would sell pat sa'il, which is basically Thai-style rice noodles, the thick noodles, like whole fun noodles in Chinese. So my job was to kind of like peel these noodles also, so they were like strands. And I remember that as a kid, you know, these memories. So yeah, I've been through it all, man. From, like I said, pub kitchens, restaurants, market stalls, Michelin kitchens. I've worked in a 2-star, a 1-star. I've worked in Spain for a French chef. And I gave up meat in 2009. I transitioned to a vegetarian diet. And in 2014, I went straight vegan. So the inspiration for me, you know, going meat-free and vegan, it was, to be honest with you, I burnt out, you know. starting from cooking when you're 16 and jumping straight into work around 18 and not stopping for like a solid 10 years plus. I kind of like, that's the only thing I knew was kitchen. So I burnt out and I needed to kind of reset. So I started going to the London Buddhist Centre, which is around the corner here in Bethnal Green. Started meditating and just going back to my Buddhist roots. I mean, my parents would take me back to Laos every year, and my granddad was a head monk of a temple, so I always had that connection. But as a young adult, I just reconnected. So I spoke to the elders from the London Buddhist Centre, and they just gave me knowledge about being ethical, and they just told me about the first precept, which is I abstain to take life, etc. And it kind of like made sense to me, so I stopped eating meat and went on a vegetarian diet, and that lasted 5 years until I made the transition to going full vegan, and I haven't looked back since. I just saw the benefits of just cutting out dairy and milk and eggs, and from there I just thought vegan diet works well with me. So here I am today. Yeah, my diners, my customers, my guests, it's a mixture. It's people seem to think that it's mainly vegans, but to be honest with you, I would say 50-50. Yeah, I think what I try to do is just create good food for the people, for the local. I know London and I know what people like and the flavors of London. So when you can create that, it just speaks to people, whether it being vegan or not, or plant-based or healthy or not. But yeah, I would say it's a mixture of a crowd, my customers. Shoreditch, East London is the place to be, man. I mean, there's so many creative people around, from film directors to artists, graffiti artists, musicians, you name it, tattoo artists. It's all a big melting pot for creativity here, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. So my advice for other chefs that want to create more plant-based or vegan food, I would say just experiment more, man. I mean, you take a traditional Christmas dinner, you take away the turkey, the meat, the beef, and you're left with just veggies. So you have to get creative, And that's what I learned when I transitioned. I was like, right, I don't have the turkey no more. I don't have the beef Wellington anymore. What am I gonna do? I had to get busy, and think, how could I create just the sides, make the sides the main attraction? So it just gets you thinking more. It's like a restart, but it's fun, man. With the beef Wellington, I have my own version of a mushroom Wellington, and it's just, I would say like beef is quite savory, and mushrooms also savory, a good texture. If you cook it in a certain way, it can kind of replicate a meaty texture. So just with my experience and my palate, I can kind of like recreate these memories that I used to have with veggies. And I think the way I use veggies is like how I would cook meat. Back in the day I would sear the steak. These days I'm searing broccoli, I'm charring it, getting an extra charness to add that smokiness to it, and that creates another flavor element to the dish. So things like that, if I was to use, let's say soya mince and make a bolognese, I would do it exactly the same way as I would with mincemeat, from searing it and making sure that it's just slowly catching at the bottom, and then deglazing it with red wine and adding the rosemary and the thyme, and it's just kind of like, I don't think I would have that experience if I didn't work with meat in the past. So carrying it on, I'm grateful for this, for this skill. Yeah, London town is I'm blessed to be here, especially in East London. I have no problem with getting exotic ingredients, to be honest with you, all year round. So Asian markets, South Asian, East Asian, Southeast Asian markets, I have it all. African, Caribbean, we use a lot of plantains here. So my go-to is the African Caribbean shops, and all of my Southeast Asian flavors. Obviously I go there, and then you've got the great British produce as well. So we're blessed in London. I have no problem of getting anything all year round. So what excites me about cooking is going back to cooking, to be honest with you. When I first opened Cook Daily in 2015, I was cooking behind the stove, and then we grew and grew, got more popular. I kind of took a step back, And then coming back now, been here a year, I'm in the kitchen every single day, cooking every single dish. I've just fell back in love with cooking. And I realized that sometimes we kind of need to stay in contact and be on the line to kind of, just reconnect with that. So my time away from the kitchen, just running things behind the scene, it was great, but there was something missing, and that was that passion that I kind of lost along the way. So honestly, going back to the kitchen, I've found that passion again, you know what I mean? With me cooking my dishes, my bowls, I know that it's healthy. Like, I wouldn't feed my customers nothing that I wouldn't give to my children, you know what I'm trying to say? So obviously we're not junk food, we're not fast food. I would say we're like street food with a restaurant touch, you know what I'm trying to say? Even though it's a takeaway, but lunchtimes you'll see the whole little takeaway spot is packed. People are asking us, like, do we have toilet facilities? I said, no, it's just a takeaway, but we want to put seats because we want people to enjoy the food when it's nice and piping hot. Obviously, people do take takeaway. I do deliveries, but my main customers come and just enjoy the food in our setting, I've done everything here, from the floors to, I've designed everything, and we've always done it like that way. Yeah, so, with it being such a small space in here, I just knew that coming back and opening in a prime location like Shoreditch, I just needed to bring that vibe again that I had before, that flavor. So it's the same that I've always done, It first started off with, not having a lot of money, doing things on a budget, handwritten menus, splashes with paint everywhere. I mean, I grew up doing graffiti, so it was just normal for me to juice up my marker and write my menus and use my leftover colors and just, decorate the shop. But it's become almost like a trademark now. So yeah, everything that's designed here is just by myself, and it's just having the ideas to kind of like bring color to the city, and especially with my graffiti background, everything's always handwritten. Yeah, I wish I could still handwrite the tickets that come to the kitchen, but yeah, we use a printer now. The style of my food is colorful. You have your yoga fire. I name it the yoga fire. It's based on a Street Fighter character called Dal Sim. And on the menu description, it says, with dal simmered in golden coconut milk. So that's like my take on the Street Fighter character, but also paying homage to the Indian yellow curry. So it has dal, chickpeas, sweet potatoes, finish off with raita, fresh yogurt, and some crunchy sev. That's like our Indian style curry in a bowl. And then you have your infamous curry, which is a Thai green curry from Thailand now. And that's like vibrant green. Normally green curry is not that green. But what we do here, I took my experience from making green smoothies. When I first went vegan, I was just doing green smoothies all the time. Banana, water, spinach. So I'm thinking, wow, this is so nice and vibrant. If I could add that into a green curry. So now what I do when I make the green curry, we add loads of spinach and blend the spinach with the coconut milk. And then we sieve it, so now you get like a nice green coconut milk. So our green curry is nice and vibrant. So these are colors, colors that speak to me, whether it be through graffiti, spray paint, or food. It needs to kind of represent, and especially us being a heavy vegetable restaurant. Yeah, just, you got your broccolis, your peppers, yellow, greens, oranges, and not just colors, but also vitamins, right? Like your B carotene, your vitamin D from your greens. It's all in one. So I'm just happy to feed healthy food and also make it look pretty, as you should. So this restaurant is just about good vegan grub, the chef crafted by myself, and it's made with love. And I know a lot of people say that, but when you cook in every single dish, it's love, man.
Still fascinated by blue cheeses, we headed to Castilla y León. And ahead of us, many incredible cheeses mixed with sheep, cow, and goat milk to discover. So while the motor of the caravan roared and our stomachs rumbled just a bit, we got closer to Zamora. There, we had a unique opportunity to visit an Iberian-type blended cheese factory and learned everything about its industrial production process, not to mention the very high standards of quality and food safety of the European production model, which are incredible.
European blended cheeses are always the perfect appetizer.
Manuel showed us the entire factory and shared with us all of his passion and knowledge of the incredible world of cheeses. Among other things, he explained to us that almost half of the European cheeses from this region are blend cheeses. And depending on the time they spent maturing, they can be soft cheeses, which they mature for 7 days, semi-cured cheeses if they mature from 20 to 35 days, cured between 45 and 105 days, or old cheeses that spend the longest maturing time, specifically from 100 to 180 days. And if you ask us which are our favorites, the answer is very simple. Absolutely all of them. So we bought a good supply of mixed cheeses and we continued with our cheese road trip. Our next destination, Castilla-La Mancha. Let's go! Ready to play? Discover the European cheese stories at cheesestories.eu. Funded by the European Union,